What's up, everybody? Greg Rowe Show Tactical. I put out a video yesterday about the SIG P320, just sort of opening the conversation, asking for opinions on it, talking about the things with Achilles heel, talking about the GBRS response from DJ Shipley. So if you want to check that out, go ahead, join the conversation. I think that it's important when you have, a YouTube channel or a platform or something of that nature to not only put out, content with reviews and specs and all those kinds of things, but also to occasionally just have conversation. I think that's one of the things, at least in the United States right now, that is really making things harder and complicated and sort of, driving the wedge between this side and that side on, whatever argument it may be, whether, it's you're Republican, you're Democrat, whether it's, you're a pro-Christian, whether you're not, whether you're pro-LGBTQ or you're not, whether you're pro-life or pro-choice, and it also works that way, in the gun community when it comes to being pro-2A or not, or even certain guns or certain manufacturers or whatever. I don't think that people like to have conversations anymore. And technology, in a way, has been a blessing. It allows me to communicate with people, allows people to communicate with me. It allows me to print content, watch content, things of that nature. But it also, I believe, has hindered a lot of the communication and the face-to-face and the wanting to have discussion and dialogue with other people. So that's what I'm hoping to do with some of the videos that I post. Not necessarily gun reviews or showing you things, but just opening up conversation because, I feel like that's important. And if we can get back to, having conversations, maybe some of the division that's going on in this country on all of these different things can maybe be alleviated a little bit. I know that there's people that are so passionate and hateful and spiteful towards, certain, people or political parties or, they're advocating for this or not, that you're not going to get through to everybody. But I'm just hoping to be able to, sort of have conversations. So the conversation that I want to open up, isn't necessarily all 2011s, but I wanted to talk about Staccato specifically. And what the reason I wanted to do this, and the reason I haven't made a video like this before, is because Staccato is right now trying to clearly get in with some gun influencers and whatnot, and trying to make their guns more popular, trying to get their guns in the hands of more shooters and stuff like that. And so I wanted to start the conversation about why I think that isn't happening, and kind of give a suggestion to them as to what I think they need to do in order to make that more of a possibility or realistic. The reason that I sort of came up with this idea was Paige Rue, who is some chick who shoots on Instagram. Our family owns all kinds of different ranges and whatnot in Arizona. She is a firearms instructor. She's an Instagrammer and influencer. She trains women, travels throughout the United States to do training courses with women. She's had her own show on Salem Now, put on by Turning Point, that was called Reloaded with Paige Rue, which is a really cool show. If you haven't seen it, you don't have to be a woman to watch it. I just thought it was a very interesting and intriguing show. I followed her for a very long time and sort of seen this progression of her sort of starting out to becoming more sponsored and influencer and kind of going in this direction, which is cool to see. You like to see people that work hard and people that do things the right way get rewarded for it. But she put out a video a couple weeks ago that was talking about, she's like, I'm going to start working with a major brand, guess who it is? And then, some people were like Staccato, some people were like Microtech, all this kind of stuff, right? And it ended up being Staccato. And she put out a video that Staccato, wants to get these guns in the hands of more shooters. They want, women to start owning and shooting Staccato and stuff like that. And while I think it's a novel concept, and I'm not obviously against the idea of it, as they make fine firearms, it led me to the discussion of why is that not happening, and is this idea, this ploy, this whatever of getting people like Paige involved, is that going to make it more realistic that women and new shooters and whatnot get a Staccato in their hands or carry a Staccato, or is it maybe something else that is not making that happen? Is it going to pay off? And in my opinion, it will a little bit. There'll probably be a little bit of an initial bump. It's kind of like it rose by Sig Sauer. If you dedicate something specifically towards a group of people, women specifically, that this is kind of theirs and they can kind of take ownership of it and whatnot, you can usually see a little bit of a bump, or some intrigue there. I think the problem with the Staccato thing, and why I don't think it's going to technically work out as well as they want it to work out, is that it's a price point thing, right? Staccatos, used to be STI, and they built, competition style, 1911 double stacks, 2011s, whatever you want to, call them. They were built for competition, and they were kind of like race guns, and they were, really expensive. And if you were into shooting and this is what you did and this is your thing, then you had no problem doing that. Well, when they rebranded as Staccato, they have been trying, with multiple people, Michelle, who used to be with Team Glock, to sort of capture the EDC market, right? The everyday average shooter, and try and make Staccato, more in the same vein as Glock and Sig Sauer and, Smith & Wesson and Canik and, Beretta and all these other type of companies. But the problem is, in doing that, they haven't adjusted their prices. And I know that there's, a bunch of, 1911 and 2011 snobs out there that are going to say, well, it's worth it, and it's more of an entry-level gun. And realistically, if you want to get into the nice, double-stack 2011s, it is. Like, you get into the Dan Wesson stuff, the Jacob Grays, the Wilson Combats, all these other companies out there. And yeah, they're more in the $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 range, as opposed to like, 22, 23, 2,500 to start out, like some of the Staccato models, the C2, the CS and whatnot are. So I get that and I understand that, but that's not what the video is about. The video is about trying to get Staccatos into the hands of women and to the average everyday shooter. And in order to do that, you have to understand the mind frame, the wants, the desires, what a woman or what an everyday average shooter is looking at when it comes to getting their first gun, getting a carry gun, what they look for in these sort of things. And first and foremost, for most people, it's gonna be price, right? Women in general, they want to look nice, they want to have nice things. But if you can tell a woman that you can get this outfit, from Target, and this outfit's going to be $50 total, and this one, you're going to get from White House Black Market or, Macy's or whatever, and it's going to cost $250, and they basically look the same, women in general are going to go with the $50 outfit over the $250 outfit. They want nice things, they want to look nice, but a lot of women are also budget conscious, right? With inflation and everything that's been going on in the United States, people are more budget conscious than they have been, in the past. And so in order to get Staccato or something like a Staccato in the hands of a woman or an everyday average shooter or a first-time gun owner, you're going to have to be more realistic about your price range, right? You're still building nice guns, but you're selling EDC guns basically at competition gun prices. So in order to actually hit that market or hit that vein or expand, your brand and get it in the hands of more shooters, you're going to have to come down in price, and you're going to have to be more realistic with your prices. If Staccato went out tomorrow and chopped, the price of their guns $1,000, and I know that sounds crazy, $1,000, oh my, but if you dropped, a C2 to $1,300 and a CS to $1,500 as opposed to $2,300 and $2,500, you would start getting more attention. You'd start getting more, more traction towards the market that they're clearly going after. And that's my biggest issue with it is it's a price range thing. It's not that they don't make nice guns. It's not that the guns don't run. It's not that they're, not hand fit and, have tight tolerances and all that stuff. All of that stuff is true. But you have to understand that there's a certain portion of society in the gun culture, the gun community, that is looking for that. Okay, it's not this large portion. It's a smaller portion that's looking for that. That there's a reason that Glock and, the M&P shields and the 365s and bodyguards and all this kind of stuff sell like hotcakes. It's because they're in the $300 to $600 range. They hold, 10, 12, whatever rounds they hold, depending on the model. And you can shoot them. They're lightweight and they're accessible. Somebody doesn't have a problem going, I don't have a problem spending $500 or $600. But when you say, okay, well, here's this gun and this holds 15 rounds and this is a CS, and then you have the Glock 19 over here, or you have, the SIG P320, and you're looking at $500-$600 for one of these guns, and this gun over here is $2,500. You're looking at it going, I could buy 5 of these for one of these. And that's what the average person, the average shooter, the new shooter, the woman shooter who's trying to figure this out for the first time, that's what's going through their mind. It's not that they don't care about what your reputation is. They don't care about all this kind of stuff. They look at price first, okay? And then from there, it's like, how comfortable is it? Maybe they're looking at the aesthetics of the gun. How lightweight is it? Can I see myself, carrying this every day? Is it am I going to be able to put it in my, on my belt? Am I going to be able to put it in my purse or in a fanny pack or whatever? Those are the things that are going through these people's minds. It's not, oh my heavens, this is the coolest, 2011 on the market. Look how tight the tolerance are. Look how smooth this thing shoots. Look, whatever. They're not thinking about all of that. And when you have all of that, and that is 5 times more than this, or 6 times, or 7 times, or 8 times in some instances, it's just not going to be appealing to the average person. So Staccato really is concerned and serious about getting into the concealed carry market and women shooters and first-time shooters and all this kind of stuff. They've got to come up with a model or a few models, or they've got to drop the price of the guns that they're making so that it is attainable and reachable and accessible for the average shooter. And until they do that, it won't happen. It just won't happen. So that's my take on that. That's my opinion on that. This isn't a video about if Staccatos are great guns, if they're worth the money, blah, 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 blah. If you're a 1911 snob, it's about how realistic it is, their goal right now, how realistic it is to get a Staccato in the hands of women shooters, first-time shooters, newer shooters, to get them to carry it as an EDC or defend, their home with it. That's what this video is about. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let's have a conversation about this. And kind of let me know what your thoughts are on what I said, what your thoughts are about their business plan, their business model, their pricing, what you think it's going to take for them to sort of accomplish this goal. That's what this video is about. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you joined the conversation. If you liked the video, subscribe to the channel, give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. And until the next time, I'm out of here.